I woke up at dawn, choking on thick black diesel smoke from 6 massive cement trucks parked all over my private driveway in the Arizona desert. They blocked my garage completely, crushed the sprinkler lines Sarah and I installed together, and, worst of all, trapped my disabled daughter inside with no way to get her to school. Right there stood this HOA treasurer, clipboard in hand, fake smile blazing. She says, "Oh, sweetie, relax, your driveway is community property now." I shot back, "This is private land. Get these trucks off." She smirked, "It's all perfectly within the rules, honey." But Gabrielle had no idea I owned the one thing her construction empire desperately needed, and I was about to turn her $30,000 concrete delivery into the most expensive mistake of her life. What would you do if an HOA destroyed your family's peace? Drop a "if you've fought these bullies, tell me your state," and hit subscribe for the revenge payoff. Meet Wade Carpenter, 48 years old, irrigation systems installer, and a man who knows the value of water in the desert. Wade's not just any contractor, he's the guy who can make grass grow where scorpions fear to tread. But 2 years ago, Wade's world crumbled when his wife Sarah lost her battle with cancer. Those medical bills, they hit harder than a Phoenix summer. Wade watched his savings evaporate faster than morning dew on hot asphalt. But he held on to the one thing that mattered most. The house he and Sarah built together on 5 acres at the edge of Sagebrush Estates, a gated community where every sprinkler line was placed by hand, every rose bush planted with love. Now it's just Wade and his teenage daughter Sophia, and every morning at exactly 6 a.m. you'll find him outside testing sprinkler pressure. Not because he has to, because it's the one routine that keeps him sane. The sound of water hitting metal, the steady sigh readings, the knowledge that something still works the way it's supposed to. Wade's property sits on a corner lot that controls the only access road to the community's construction sites. It's prime real estate, and someone's been eyeing it like a hawk circling roadkill. Enter Gabrielle Walsh, HOA treasurer and owner of Walsh Construction Company, a business she inherited when her husband died 5 years back. Gabrielle's got this talent for sounding sweet as honey while wielding power like a sledgehammer. She calls everyone sweetie and honey, but behind those sugar-coated words lurks the kind of woman who'd foreclose on her own mother if the paperwork was in order. Gabrielle's got plans for Wade's lot. Big plans, the kind that involve luxury homes and profit margins that make her eyes light up like slot machines hitting jackpot. It started innocently enough. One Tuesday morning, Wade stepped outside for his ritual sprinkler check and found 3 cement trucks parked across his driveway. The drivers were long gone, engines cold, but the trucks sat there like sleeping giants, blocking his garage completely. "Morning, Wade!" Gabrielle appeared from nowhere, clipboard in hand, wearing a smile that could sell snake oil to a mongoose. "Sorry about the trucks, sweetie. Just temporary staging for the community pool renovations. You don't mind, do you?" It wasn't really a question. Wade minded plenty when Sophia couldn't get her car out for her part-time job at the library. He minded more when his own irrigation van got trapped in the garage, forcing him to cancel 3 client appointments. But what really got to him was the crunch of gravel under his work boots as he walked around the trucks, inspecting the damage to his sprinkler lines. Those lines represented more than pipes and water pressure. They represented every Sunday afternoon he and Sarah spent designing the perfect irrigation system. Every evening they walked the property planning where each zone would go. Now truck wheels had crushed 3 main lines, and concrete dust was already settling on Sophia's bedroom window like gray snow. "How long?" Wade asked Gabrielle. "Oh, just a few days, honey. A week at most." She adjusted her fake designer handbag, the kind that screams, "I'm struggling," while hiding a healthy bank account. "I'm sure you understand. Community improvement benefits everyone." Wade understood, all right. He understood that Gabrielle Walsh had just declared war on his property, his family, and everything he'd worked to protect since Sarah died. What he didn't understand yet was that she'd picked a fight with the wrong irrigation specialist. Because Wade Carpenter knew something about water pressure, about systems, and about what happens when you mess with a man's carefully calibrated world. And Gabrielle was about to get a crash course in hydraulic engineering she'd never forget. 3 trucks became 6 by Thursday morning. Wade counted them while sipping his coffee, watching the sun rise over what used to be his peaceful driveway. The hydraulic hiss of air brakes at 5 a.m. had become his new alarm clock, and the diesel exhaust was giving him headaches that lasted until noon. Sophia couldn't get to her car, Her Honda Civic was trapped behind a wall of construction equipment like a toy in a giant's toolbox. She missed 2 shifts at the library, and her supervisor wasn't happy about teenage employees who couldn't manage their schedules. "Dad, this is ridiculous," Sophia said over breakfast, gesturing toward the window where truck bumpers gleamed in the morning light. "My car's been hostage for 3 days. Wade's irrigation van was trapped too, sitting in the garage like a caged animal. He'd lost 6 client appointments already, and in the irrigation business, spring was money season. Every day of Arizona's brief growing period was precious, and Gabrielle Walsh was stealing his livelihood 1 truck at a time. But the real damage wasn't financial. Wade discovered it during his morning pressure check, kneeling in the dirt beside his main irrigation line. The truck tires had crushed the PVC like stepping on drinking straws, and water was bubbling up through the desert soil like tiny geysers. Irrigation systems are like the human circulatory system. Damage one major artery, and everything downstream suffers. Wade had learned that lesson installing systems across the Southwest, but he'd never expected to see his own handiwork destroyed by some HOA power trip. He found Gabrielle at her construction trailer, parked conveniently in the community's main lot. She was on the phone laughing about something, and didn't notice Wade approaching until he cleared his throat. "Gabrielle, we need to talk." She looked up with that practiced smile, the one that probably worked wonders at HOA board meetings. "Wade, honey, what can I do for you?" "The trucks need to move. Today. My daughter can't get to work, I can't reach my clients, and your equipment is destroying my irrigation system." "Oh, sweetie." Gabrielle's voice dripped with fake sympathy. "I understand your frustration, I really do. But this is for the community good. We're improving property values for everyone. There's an empty lot 2 streets over, perfect for staging. That lot isn't suitable for heavy equipment." She turned back to her paperwork, dismissing him. "Wade, honey, this is temporary. Don't be difficult." The word difficult hit Wade like a slap. Sarah used to say he was the most accommodating man she'd ever met, sometimes to a fault, but apparently, wanting to access your own garage made you difficult in Gabrielle's world. That evening, Wade did some research. He pulled permits from the county website, checked construction schedules, and made some calls to buddies in the industry. What he discovered made his blood pressure spike like a broken irrigation valve. The trucks weren't just for pool renovation. Half of them carried commercial rental stickers from 3 different companies. Gabrielle wasn't just using his property as a staging area. She was running a truck rental business from his driveway, charging other contractors for convenient equipment storage. The woman calling him difficult was making money off his misery. Wade shared his discovery with Sophia over dinner, showing her the rental company logos he'd photographed that morning. "Your school project on property rights just got more interesting." Sophia grinned, pulling out her phone. "Want me to document everything? Truck numbers, times, companies?" "That's my girl." But Wade's satisfaction was short-lived. Friday morning brought a new surprise: concrete dust coating his truck's windshield like powdered sugar. One of Gabrielle's cement mixers had malfunctioned during the night, spraying concrete particles across half his property. The dust wasn't just messy, it was alkaline, the kind that kills vegetation on contact. Wade watched his carefully maintained desert landscaping start to wither, plants he and Sarah had chosen together beginning to curl and brown like autumn leaves in July. He found Gabrielle supervising a crew near the community pool, shouting orders with the confidence of someone who'd never had her own property invaded. "The concrete dust is killing my plants." "Oh, that," Gabrielle waved her hand like she was swatting flies. "Just rinse them off, honey. A little water won't hurt anything." Wade bit back his response. In Gabrielle's world, apparently, everything could be fixed with a little water, except the irrigation system her trucks had destroyed, which needed a lot more than water to function again. As Wade walked home, boots crunching on concrete-dusted gravel, he realized Gabrielle Walsh had made a crucial mistake. She'd assumed he was just another pushover homeowner who'd caved to HOA pressure. She was about to learn that irrigation specialists understand pressure better than most people, and Wade was just getting started building his own. By Monday, Gabrielle had escalated to psychological warfare. 5 a.m. concrete deliveries became the new normal, with backup beepers piercing the pre-dawn silence like electronic roosters from hell. Wade's coffee now tasted like concrete dust, and his morning sprinkler checks revealed fresh damage daily. The neighborhood was turning against him. Mrs. Cecilia from 2 houses down complained about the early morning noise. Mr. Rodriguez across the street mentioned property disputes affecting home values. None of them blamed Gabrielle. She'd positioned herself as the community improver, while Wade became the difficult neighbor who couldn't cooperate. "It's like middle school all over again," Sophia observed, watching Wade install security cameras around the property. "The mean girl convinces everyone you're the problem." The cameras were Wade's idea, borrowed from his contractor network. If Gabrielle wanted to play games with his property, he'd document every move. Professional-grade equipment, night vision capability, and audio recording, the whole setup cost him $800 he couldn't afford. But ignorance was proving far more expensive. The footage revealed Gabrielle's operation in stunning detail. Trucks arrived at dawn, crews unloaded equipment onto his property without permission, and by noon, Wade's driveway looked like a construction equipment auction. But the real discovery came Thursday morning when he reviewed Wednesday's recordings. The trucks weren't just parking, they were rotating. Companies paid Gabrielle for overnight storage, then moved equipment to job sites across Phoenix. Her innocent pool renovation was actually a commercial equipment rental operation generating thousands of dollars monthly. Wade knew commercial operations in residential areas violated county zoning codes. He'd pulled enough permits to understand the rules. Residential properties couldn't host business activities without proper licensing, insurance, and neighbor notification. Gabrielle had none of these. Translation: she was breaking the law on his property, and every day of operation added to her violation count. Wade called the county zoning office, expecting bureaucratic sympathy. Instead, he got transferred 3 times before reaching someone who cared more about lunch than property rights. "Is this an emergency?" the clerk asked. "Illegal commercial operation on residential property. File a complaint online. Processing time is 6 to 8 weeks. 6 weeks. By then, Gabrielle could destroy his entire landscape and turn his property into a construction gravel pit. Meanwhile, Sophia was documenting everything for her school project on property rights, turning her father's nightmare into a teaching moment. She photographed truck schedules, recorded license plates, and even interviewed neighbors about property boundaries. Her research uncovered something Wade hadn't noticed: the equipment rotation schedule. "Dad, look at this." Sophia spread printouts across the kitchen table. "The trucks aren't random. She's got specific time slots for different companies. Acme Concrete gets Monday through Wednesday mornings. Desert Sky Construction takes Wednesday afternoons through Friday. Rodriguez Brothers get weekends." Wade studied his daughter's documentation. Gabrielle wasn't just renting space. She was running a sophisticated scheduling operation that maximized revenue per square foot of his property. The woman was a criminal mastermind disguised as a suburban HOA treasurer. But the real gut punch came Friday afternoon. Wade returned from a client meeting to find an asphalt crew spreading hot tar across his front yard, not near his property, on his property, creating what Gabrielle would later call a community access road. The smell of hot asphalt mixed with desert heat created a toxic cloud that made Wade's eyes water. The crew was paving over Sarah's memorial garden, the small corner where Wade had planted her favorite roses after the funeral. 2 years of careful cultivation, destroyed in an afternoon for Gabrielle's fake road project. Wade confronted the crew foreman, a sunburned man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Who authorized this?" "Lady with the clipboard. Said it was approved by the HOA. "This is private property." The foreman shrugged. "Take it up with management, buddy. I just lay asphalt." Wade found Gabrielle at her trailer, reviewing invoices with the satisfaction of someone counting money. Her smile faltered when she saw his expression. "The memorial garden," Wade said quietly. "You paved over my wife's roses." "Oh, honey, I'm sorry about that, but progress requires sacrifice. Your property value will increase dramatically with proper access roads." Property value. Gabrielle was destroying his memories and calling it improvement, steamrolling his past to build her profitable future. The taste of asphalt fumes lingered in Wade's mouth like bitter medicine. That night, Wade filed a police report demanding criminal trespassing charges and property damage compensation. The responding officer, young and clearly overwhelmed, took notes but offered little hope. "Looks like a civil matter, sir. HOA disputes usually require lawyers, not police." Lawyers meant money Wade didn't have. Gabrielle knew exactly what she was doing, operating in the gray area where criminal activity looked like community improvement and property destruction masqueraded as enhancement. But she'd made one crucial error in her psychological campaign. She'd destroyed the memorial garden. That wasn't just property damage. That was personal warfare, and Wade Carpenter was about to show her the difference between irrigation maintenance and hydraulic justice. The asphalt crew returned Monday with industrial equipment that made the cement trucks look like toys. Gabrielle had escalated from parking violations to full-scale property modification, and Wade watched helplessly as his front yard disappeared under hot tar and heavy machinery. The memorial garden was gone. Sarah's roses, carefully chosen for their drought resistance and symbolic meaning, lay buried beneath 6 inches of asphalt that still steamed in the morning heat. Wade knelt beside their new access road and tried to remember exactly where each bush had been planted, but the landscape had been erased as thoroughly as a deleted photograph. The asphalt crew foreman, a different guy from Friday, seemed genuinely confused by Wade's distress. Lady said this was all approved. Community improvement project. Community improvement. Wade tasted the words like spoiled milk. This is my property. Look, buddy, I got permits and everything. The foreman showed Wade official-looking paperwork with Gabrielle's signature and the HOA seal. You got a problem with the project, take it up with your HOA board. Wade studied the documents. They looked legitimate, complete with engineering diagrams and impact assessments. Gabrielle had done her homework, creating a paper trail that made property theft look like community service. The woman was running a masterclass in bureaucratic manipulation. But the real horror was yet to come. The asphalt wasn't just covering his memorial garden, it was destabilizing his entire property. Wade discovered this during his evening inspection, when he noticed water bubbling up through cracks in the new pavement. The crew had paved over his main irrigation lines without mapping them first. Water pressure that once fed his landscape was now trapped underground, creating hydraulic stress that could collapse the whole system. 30 years of irrigation experience told Wade this wasn't accidental. It was sabotage disguised as incompetence. The weight calculations were all wrong too. Residential soil wasn't designed for heavy truck traffic, and the constant equipment rotation was compacting earth that had taken decades to properly cultivate. Wade could see hairline cracks forming in his home's foundation, subtle signs that the ground beneath was shifting under unnatural pressure. Translation: Gabrielle's fake road was literally crushing his foundation, and every day of truck traffic made the structural damage worse. Wade called his insurance company, hoping homeowners' coverage might address the foundation issues. The agent, friendly but useless, explained that intentional property damage fell under legal disputes, not natural disasters. You'll need to prove the HOA acted maliciously, she said. Until then, this looks like voluntary improvement work. Voluntary? Wade almost laughed. Nothing about Gabrielle's operation was voluntary, but proving coercion meant lawyers and court costs he couldn't afford. She'd designed her scheme perfectly, staying just inside legal boundaries while destroying everything that mattered to him. The neighbors were actively hostile now. Property values were indeed dropping, but not because of Wade's resistance, because of the construction chaos that had turned their quiet community into an industrial zone. Yet somehow, Gabrielle had convinced everyone that Wade was the problem. If you'd just cooperated from the beginning, Mrs. Cecilia told him at the mailbox, none of this would be necessary. Necessary. As if paving over memorial gardens and destroying irrigation systems was somehow essential for community welfare. Wade realized Gabrielle had weaponized neighborly guilt, turning his legitimate property concerns into selfish obstruction. The psychological pressure was working. Wade found himself second-guessing every decision, wondering if maybe he was being unreasonable. Maybe Gabrielle was right about community improvement. Maybe fighting back was just prolonging everyone's suffering. Sophia found her father sitting in the kitchen at midnight, staring at photographs of the memorial garden taken before Gabrielle's arrival. The roses were in full bloom, desert-adapted beauties that had thrived despite Arizona's harsh conditions. "Mom would hate seeing you like this," Sophia said quietly. "Your mother believed in community cooperation. She also believed in standing up to bullies." Sophia sat beside him. "Remember what she used to say about irrigation systems?" Wade smiled despite his exhaustion. "Water always finds a way." "Water always finds a way," Sophia repeated, "even when people try to block it." That night, Wade couldn't sleep. He walked the property in darkness, feeling the unnatural give of compacted soil under his feet, hearing the subtle sound of trapped water seeking escape beneath the asphalt. Gabrielle thought she'd buried his irrigation system, but Wade knew something she didn't. Water pressure, properly applied, could move mountains. It could crack foundations, split concrete, and find pathways through the most stubborn obstacles. Wade had spent 3 decades learning to work with water pressure, but he'd never considered using it as a weapon. Gabrielle Walsh had just taught him the difference between cooperation and warfare, and tomorrow, Wade was going to start building pressure of his own, the kind that couldn't be buried under asphalt or hidden behind HOA paperwork. The memorial garden was gone, but Sarah's lessons about persistence remained. Water always finds a way, and Wade was about to prove it. Wade found the deed in Sarah's filing cabinet on a Tuesday morning, tucked between tax documents and medical bills, like a forgotten treasure map. He'd been searching for irrigation permits when his fingers touched the old manila envelope marked "Property Documents, Important" in Sarah's careful handwriting. The deed was older than their marriage, dating back to 1978 when Sagebrush Estates was just surveyed desert land. Wade spread the document across his kitchen table, squinting at legal language that read like ancient poetry written by lawyers with grudges. Most of it was standard property description, lot lines, boundaries, restrictions. But buried in paragraph 7, subsection C, Wade found language that made his heart race like a teenager's first kiss. Property owner retains exclusive gate rights to community access road, including authority to restrict vehicular traffic during specified hours or conditions deemed necessary for property protection. Gate rights, exclusive authority. Wade read the passage 3 times, each reading revealing new implications. Every truck that had invaded his property, every piece of equipment Gabrielle had parked on his driveway, every cement mixer that had destroyed his landscaping, all of it had to pass through his land to reach the community construction sites. He'd been thinking like a victim when he should have been thinking like a gatekeeper. Wade drove to the county recorder's office, a beige building that smelled like old paper and bureaucratic despair. The clerk, a woman whose enthusiasm had been crushed by decades of property disputes, confirmed what Wade suspected. The community's access easement had expired in 1987 and was never renewed. "Happens more often than you'd think," she explained, pulling microfiche records that dated back to the Carter administration. Developer goes bankrupt, paperwork gets lost, and suddenly private property becomes public highway, until someone checks the deed. Wade stared at the easement documents, their official language confirming his legal authority. For 38 years, vehicles had been crossing his property without permission, creating what lawyers call a prescriptive easement, basically trespassing that becomes legal through repetition and assumption. But prescriptive easements require continuous, uninterrupted use. Wade's property had sat vacant for 5 years during the foreclosure crisis, breaking the legal chain of assumed permission. Gabrielle's trucks were trespassing, pure and simple. The implications hit Wade like irrigation water under full pressure. He didn't just own his 5 acres, he controlled access to every construction project in Sagebrush Estates. Every truck, every delivery, every crew that needed to reach the community had to cross his land with his permission. Gabrielle Walsh had been using his property as her personal highway while calling him difficult for objecting. But the woman who thought she could steamroll a widowed irrigation contractor had just picked a fight with the legal owner of her company's only access route. Wade called his neighbor Jim, a retired police officer who understood property law better than most lawyers. Jim arrived within an hour, reviewed the documents, and started laughing like a man who'd just watched karma come home to roost. "Wade, this is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. That woman's been running trucks across your land without legal authority, and you've got every right to shut her down." Legally? Completely. Property owners control access to their land. Period. She wants to use your road. She needs your written permission. No permission, no access. The power shift was dizzying. For weeks, Wade had felt helpless against Gabrielle's bureaucratic bullying, watching his property get destroyed while she hid behind HOA authority. But authority meant nothing without access, and access belonged to Wade. He owned the choke point. Every truck Gabrielle needed for her business empire had to pass through his gate or find another route, which didn't exist. Sagebrush Estates was bordered by protected desert on 3 sides, making Wade's property the only practical access point. Translation: without Wade's cooperation, Gabrielle's construction business was dead in the water. Water always finds a way, Sarah used to say. But sometimes you have to build the dam first. Wade spent Wednesday morning designing the most important irrigation project of his career. Except this time, he wasn't moving water. He was planning to stop trucks. The gate would be industrial grade, the kind used at construction sites and military bases. Heavy steel posts anchored 6 feet deep, with hydraulic mechanisms that could stop a runaway cement truck. Wade had installed enough irrigation systems to understand hydraulic pressure, and the same principles that moved sprinkler heads could operate gate controls. He drove to Phoenix Industrial Supply, where his contractor's license got him access to equipment that would make Gabrielle's trucks look like toys. The gate system cost $8,500. Money Wade didn't really have, but couldn't afford not to spend. The salesman, a gruff ex-Marine named Rodriguez, understood the situation immediately. HOA giving you trouble? You could say that. Brother, I've seen this before. Some people think authority means you can take whatever you want, but property rights are property rights. Rodriguez showed Wade the gate specifications. This baby will stop an 18-wheeler doing 30 miles per hour. Your trucks won't even dent it. The hydraulic system was beautiful in its simplicity. Wade could connect it to his existing irrigation timer, programming the gate to lock and unlock at predetermined hours. Set it and forget it, like a sprinkler system, but for keeping jerks out. Translation: Wade could control access to his property even when he wasn't home, and Gabrielle would never know when the gate might activate. While the gate hardware was on order, Wade assembled his legal strategy. The property attorney came recommended by Jim's police contacts, a woman named Patricia Santos, who specialized in easement disputes and had a reputation for making HOA boards cry. "Your case is textbook," Santos said, reviewing Wade's documentation in her downtown office. Expired easement, documented trespassing, property damage. The HOA has zero legal standing. What about their improvement argument? Community benefit doesn't override property law. They want an easement, they negotiate like adults and pay market rates. They want to pave your land, they buy it first. Santos smiled like a shark scenting blood. Ms. Walsh has been playing games with someone else's property. Time to change the rules. The legal costs would be substantial. $5,000 for initial action. More if Gabrielle fought back. But Santos offered a payment plan tied to eventual settlement recovery, betting her fees against Gabrielle's deep pockets. Wade documented everything for evidence preservation. 3 weeks of security footage showing truck patterns and timing. Photographs of property damage with professional estimates for landscape restoration. Financial records proving lost income from blocked business access. Sophia helped with the technical aspects, creating digital catalogs that organized evidence by date, time, and violation type. Her school project had evolved into a comprehensive legal brief that made Wade proud of his daughter's analytical skills. "Dad, look at this pattern." Sophia showed him her latest analysis. Gabrielle schedules the biggest deliveries for Friday afternoons when most people are at work. She's timing the disruption to minimize witnesses. Wade studied the scheduling data. Gabrielle was sophisticated, avoiding peak traffic hours and neighborhood watch periods. But her pattern revealed the perfect timing for Wade's counterstrike, Friday's major concrete pour for the community pool complex. The county fire inspector, another contact through Jim's network, agreed to conduct a routine inspection of emergency access compliance. Fire codes required clear egress routes for emergency vehicles, and Gabrielle's truck parking created dangerous bottlenecks. "Officially, I can't coordinate timing with your gate installation," the inspector explained with careful neutrality. "But unofficially, I'll be conducting inspections all week, and if I happen to find violations during a major concrete delivery, well, that's just coincidence." Wade's irrigation expertise proved invaluable for gate timing calculations. Concrete has a working window of 90 minutes before initial set, after which any delays become expensive disasters. Gabrielle's Friday pour was scheduled to start at noon, with 6 cement trucks delivering in sequence. If the gate locked at 2 p.m., the trucks would be trapped with wet concrete beginning to harden in their drums. Every minute of delay would cost Gabrielle money, and after 30 minutes, the concrete would be worthless. $15,000 down the drain. The timeline was precise as any irrigation schedule. Gate installation Thursday evening, testing Friday morning, activation during peak concrete delivery. Wade would give Gabrielle exactly what she'd given him: disruption disguised as legitimate property management. Jim helped with final preparations, positioning surveillance equipment to document everything. The retired cop understood evidence preservation better than most lawyers, and he wanted ironclad documentation of Gabrielle's reaction. "She's going to lose her mind," Jim predicted, "and when she does, we'll have it on film." Wade tested the hydraulic system one final time, watching massive steel gates swing closed with mechanical precision. The sound was satisfying, like justice moving into position. Tomorrow, Gabrielle Walsh would learn that property rights weren't suggestions, and Wade Carpenter wasn't as helpless as she'd assumed. "Water always finds a way," Sarah used to say. "Sometimes it just needs the right pressure to break through." Thursday morning arrived with Gabrielle's fake smile and a manila envelope full of HOA violations. She found Wade testing his new gate system, watching massive steel panels swing closed with hydraulic precision that would have made Sarah proud. "Wade, honey, we need to talk." Gabrielle's voice carried the kind of sweetness that usually preceded legal threats. "I've received several complaints about your unsightly gate installation." Wade looked up from his hydraulic controls, wrench still in hand. The gate stood 8 feet tall and institutional strong, designed to stop vehicles that didn't belong on his property. After weeks of watching Gabrielle's trucks destroy his landscape, the sight of solid steel barriers felt like Christmas morning. "Complaints from who?" "The Architectural Review Committee. Gates require approval for aesthetic compliance." Gabrielle produced paperwork with official HOA letterhead. "This monstrosity violates our community standards." Wade scanned the violation notice, noting Gabrielle's signature as both complainant and reviewer. The woman had essentially filed a complaint against herself and found herself guilty. Bureaucratic efficiency at its most corrupt. Aesthetic compliance. Wade tasted the words like concrete dust. "You paved my memorial garden and you're worried about aesthetics?" Community improvement sometimes requires difficult decisions. Gabrielle's maternal tone was slipping, revealing harder edges underneath. "But this gate creates an eyesore that affects everyone's property values." The irony was thick as asphalt. Gabrielle could destroy landscaping, crush irrigation systems, and turn quiet neighborhoods into construction zones. But Wade's property protection constituted an eyesore requiring immediate removal. "I've got 72 hours to comply or face daily fines," Wade said, reading the violation notice. $500 per day. "I'm sorry it's come to this, honey. If you just cooperated from the beginning, none of this would be necessary." Necessary. Gabrielle's favorite word for justifying property theft and landscape destruction. Wade folded the violation notice carefully, his contractor's mind already calculating the timeline implications. 72 hours. That gave him until Sunday midnight to remove the gate, which meant Friday's concrete delivery would proceed as planned. Gabrielle thought she'd neutralized his defense system with bureaucratic pressure, forcing him to choose between legal compliance and property protection. She'd miscalculated again. "I'll need time to consider my options," Wade said carefully. "Of course, sweetie. Take all the time you need." Gabrielle's smile returned, victorious and condescending. "I'm sure you'll make the right choice for the community." That afternoon, Wade met with Patricia Santos to discuss his legal options. The attorney reviewed the violation notice with professional skepticism, noting several procedural irregularities that made Gabrielle's case questionable. "The Architectural Review Committee requires 3 members for valid decisions," Santos explained. "This shows only one signature, hers. The violation is procedurally invalid." "What does that mean practically?" "You can ignore it and force them to file proper paperwork, which takes weeks. Or you can request a hearing and drag the process out for months." Santos smiled like someone holding 4 aces. "Either way, your gate stays operational until the bureaucracy catches up." Wade's relief was short-lived when he discovered Gabrielle's backup plan. She'd scheduled the biggest concrete delivery yet for Friday. 8 cement trucks carrying 36 yards of premium concrete for the community pool complex. The operation would take 6 hours and generate enough traffic to destroy what remained of his landscaping. But there was a darker edge to Gabrielle's escalation. Wade learned this from Sophia, who'd been documenting neighborhood conversations for her school project on community dynamics. "She's telling people you're mentally unstable," Sophia reported over dinner. "Says grief from mom's death has made you paranoid and dangerous." Wade felt the accusation hit deeper than property destruction. Gabrielle was weaponizing his loss, turning Sarah's death into ammunition for psychological warfare. The woman who'd paved over memorial roses was now using grief itself as a weapon. Mrs. Henderson asked if I felt safe living with you, Sophia continued. I told her you were the most stable person I knew, but she seemed worried. The smear campaign was working. Wade noticed neighbors crossing the street to avoid him, conversations stopping when he appeared. Gabrielle had convinced them that property protection equaled mental illness, that standing up to HOA abuse proved psychological instability. Friday morning, Wade conducted final gate testing while pretending to consider Gabrielle's demands. The hydraulic system responded perfectly, massive panels swinging closed in 12 seconds flat. Anyone caught on the wrong side would be trapped until Wade decided to grant access. He spotted Gabrielle watching from her construction trailer, probably wondering if bureaucratic pressure had broken his resolve. Her confident posture suggested she believed the game was won, that Wade would remove the gate rather than face daily fines. She was about to learn the difference between irrigation maintenance and hydraulic warfare. Wade had spent 30 years working with water pressure, understanding how systems respond when flow gets restricted. Tomorrow, Gabrielle would discover what happens when pressure builds beyond safe limits. The gate was ready, the concrete trucks were scheduled, and Wade Carpenter was done being the community's favorite victim. Water always finds a way, Sarah used to say. Sometimes it just needs to build enough pressure first. Friday morning brought the sound of diesel engines and the smell of fresh concrete mixing with desert heat. Gabrielle had arrived at dawn, supervising the arrival of 8 cement trucks like a general positioning artillery. The pool complex pour was her biggest project yet, and success would cement her reputation as the community's indispensable improvement coordinator. Wade watched from his kitchen window as trucks queued along the access road, their rotating drums catching morning sunlight like mechanical prayer wheels. Each truck carried 4.5 yards of concrete worth approximately $2,000, $36,000 of material that would become worthless if delayed too long. Concrete chemistry is unforgiving. Once water hits cement powder, you've got 90 minutes to pour and finish before chemical reactions make the mixture unusable. After that, you're looking at expensive disposal fees and starting over with fresh materials. Translation: timing delays don't just inconvenience concrete contractors, they create financial disasters. Gabrielle had positioned herself at the community pool site, clipboard in hand, orchestrating deliveries with military precision. Wade could see her checking her watch every few minutes, aware that concrete timing required coordination measured in minutes, not hours. But she'd made a crucial error in her scheduling. The pour was timed to finish by 3 p.m., avoiding peak traffic hours and maximizing working time before afternoon heat made finishing difficult. Gabrielle's efficiency would become her downfall. Wade's gate was programmed to activate at 2 p.m. sharp, right in the middle of the delivery sequence. 3 trucks would be trapped on his property with loads beginning to set, while 5 more would be stuck outside, unable to complete the pour. The irony was perfect. Gabrielle's own scheduling efficiency had created the vulnerability Wade needed to exploit. At 11:30, Wade received an unexpected visitor. The HOA president, a nervous man named Richardson who clearly wanted to be anywhere else, knocked on Wade's door with the desperation of someone caught between competing forces. Wade, I need to ask a favor. Gabrielle mentioned some concerns about today's concrete delivery. What kind of concerns? She thinks you might interfere with community improvement work. Richardson's voice carried the tone of someone delivering bad news he didn't understand. She's worried about your mental state since Sarah passed. Mental state. Gabrielle was still playing the grief card, painting Wade's property defense as psychological breakdown. The woman who'd stolen his driveway and destroyed his memorial garden was positioning herself as the concerned neighbor worried about his stability. I'm not interfering with anything, Wade said carefully, just maintaining my property. The thing is, she's asked me to authorize emergency HOA powers, give her authority to remove any obstacles to community projects. Richardson shifted uncomfortably. I don't want to get involved, but she's very persuasive. Emergency powers. Gabrielle was preparing legal cover for forcing Wade's gate open, using HOA authority to justify property invasion. She'd planned for every contingency except the one that mattered most, Wade's legal ownership of the access route. At 1:45 p.m., Wade activated his security cameras and positioned himself where he could monitor both the gate controls and Gabrielle's reaction. The annual community barbecue was setting up in the common area, with families arriving early to secure good spots. Perfect timing for maximum witnesses. Sophia joined him at the monitoring station, her school project documentation ready for whatever unfolded. "You sure about this, Dad? Your mother always said water finds a way around obstacles. Sometimes you have to be the obstacle." 2 p.m. arrived with mechanical precision. Wade pressed the activation button, and his hydraulic gate swung closed with the finality of a bank vault door. The sound echoed across the desert like a steel thunderclap, audible even over concrete mixer engines. The first truck to hit the closed gate was a driver named Martinez, who'd been making concrete deliveries for 15 years without encountering property disputes. He sat in his cab, staring at 8 feet of steel blocking his exit route, while 4.5 yards of concrete continued mixing behind him. "Gate's locked," Martinez radioed to his dispatcher. "Can't get out." Within minutes, Gabrielle appeared like a fury in steel-toed boots, her clipboard forgotten as she surveyed the trapped trucks. 3 vehicles were stuck on Wade's side of the gate, their concrete loads beginning the chemical countdown toward expensive worthlessness. "Open this gate immediately!" Gabrielle's voice carried across the desert like a coyote's howl. Her sweet suburban demeanor had evaporated, revealing the ruthless businesswoman underneath. Wade emerged from his house with the calm confidence of someone holding all the cards. The community barbecue crowd was gathering to watch the show, drawn by the commotion like kids to a playground fight. "Afternoon, Gabrielle. Beautiful day for a barbecue. Don't you dare play games with me. Those trucks need to get out now." "I'm not playing games. I'm exercising my property rights." Wade produced his deed copy, the legal document that made Gabrielle's empire possible. "According to this, I control access to my land." The concrete was ticking like a $30,000 time bomb, and Gabrielle Walsh was about to discover what happens when irrigation specialists apply pressure in all the right places. The concrete was already beginning to thicken when Fire Chief Martinez arrived for his routine inspection of emergency access routes. Wade watched the chief's pickup truck navigate around the trapped cement mixers, his practiced eye assessing the situation with professional detachment. 200 residents had gathered for the annual barbecue, but the real entertainment was happening at Wade's gate. 3 concrete trucks sat trapped like steel elephants, their drivers radioing frantically while mixer drums churned loads that grew more expensive with each passing minute. Gabrielle stood at the gate like a general facing mutiny, her clipboard now a weapon she wielded against the steel barriers. "This is illegal imprisonment. You can't trap commercial vehicles." Wade remained calm, holding his property deed like an ace in a poker game. The crowd was growing, drawn by the spectacle of HOA authority meeting immovable hydraulic resistance. Phones emerged to record the confrontation, creating the kind of viral moment that would haunt Gabrielle's reputation for years. "Ma'am, these vehicles are on my property without permission," Wade said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "That's called trespassing." "Permission? You don't need permission for community improvement." Gabrielle's voice cracked with desperation. 3 concrete loads worth $15,000 were hardening while she argued property law with a man who'd read the actual documents. Fire Chief Martinez approached with the authority of someone who'd seen enough property disputes to fill a small library. "Folks, I need to conduct my inspection. Can someone explain why emergency vehicles can't access the community?" "This man has illegally blocked community access." Gabrielle pointed at Wade like she was identifying a criminal. "He's holding our trucks hostage." "Actually, Chief, I'd like to report multiple code violations." Wade handed over documentation he'd prepared with Jim's help. "Commercial vehicles blocking residential fire access routes for 3 weeks running." Chief Martinez reviewed the papers with growing interest. Wade's documentation was thorough, photographs showing trucks blocking hydrant access, measurements proving inadequate emergency vehicle clearance, and schedules demonstrating systematic violation of fire safety codes. "These vehicles have been staging on residential property without proper permits," the chief said, his voice carrying official weight. "That's a Class C violation of county fire codes." "But they're community improvement vehicles." Gabrielle's protest sounded increasingly desperate as concrete mixers churned loads that were passing the point of usability. "Community improvement doesn't override emergency access requirements." Chief Martinez pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, I need county impound for multiple code violations. We've got commercial vehicles blocking fire access at Sagebrush Estates." The crowd stirred with excitement. This was better than reality television. real-life justice playing out in their community common area. Wade spotted neighbors who'd avoided him for weeks now, watching with new understanding as official authority validated his property claims. Gabrielle's composure finally shattered. "He's bullying a widow trying to run her late husband's business. This is harassment." The victim card she'd played so effectively was backfiring in public. The woman who'd spent weeks calling Wade difficult was now sobbing about harassment while his property deed proved her trucks were trespassing. "Ma'am, this document shows it's his property and his gate," Chief Martinez said, examining Wade's deed. "Property owners have the right to control access." "You selfish bastard!" Gabrielle's mask slipped completely, revealing the ruthless operator behind the suburban sweetness. "You've ruined everything. I'll sue you for everything you own." Wade's response was quiet but carried across the silent crowd. "Gabrielle, you paved over my wife's memorial garden. You destroyed my irrigation system. You turned my driveway into your personal business highway." He paused, looking at the gathered neighbors. "All I did was close my gate." The concrete trucks were already past salvage point, their loads hardening into expensive waste. County impound vehicles arrived with flashing lights, adding official drama to the community barbecue entertainment. Sophia appeared beside Wade with her laptop, connecting to the barbecue area's outdoor screen system. "Dad, want everyone to see the evidence?" "Show them." Wade's security footage played on the big screen like a neighborhood movie night from hell. 3 weeks of documented trespassing, property destruction, and unauthorized commercial operations played out in high-definition detail. The crowd watched Gabrielle's trucks crushing landscaping, dumping concrete waste, and operating rental businesses from Wade's property. The final shot showed Gabrielle directing the asphalt crew to pave over Sarah's memorial roses, her voice clearly audible. "Progress requires sacrifice." The crowd's mood shifted palpably. These weren't abstract property disputes. They were watching documented proof of systematic bullying disguised as community improvement. County impound officers approached the trapped concrete trucks with professional efficiency. Vehicles are being impounded for fire code violations and illegal staging. Owners can retrieve them after paying fees and fines. Gabrielle watched $30,000 of concrete harden into waste while her trucks disappeared behind tow ropes, her empire crumbling as publicly as she'd tried to build it. Wade stood quietly among his neighbors, finally vindicated, but taking no pleasure in Gabrielle's humiliation. Justice felt less satisfying than he'd expected, more like necessary medicine than sweet revenge. "Water always finds a way," Sarah used to say. "Sometimes it just takes time to wear down the obstacles." The county impound lot looked like a concrete truck graveyard by Monday morning. 8 vehicles sat in neat rows, their drums now containing 15 tons of worthless rock that would cost more to remove than the trucks were worth. Gabrielle's construction empire had literally turned to stone while she faced storage fees that mounted like Arizona summer heat, $200 per truck per day. Wade received Gabrielle's lawyer's letter on Tuesday threatening lawsuits for intentional interference and business destruction. Patricia Santos responded the same afternoon with a countersuit seeking $28,000 in property damages, plus punitive awards for trespassing and unauthorized commercial operations. The legal proceedings lasted 6 weeks, but the outcome was inevitable once county prosecutors reviewed Wade's documentation. Gabrielle had operated an unlicensed commercial staging business on residential property, violated fire access codes, and caused systematic environmental damage through improper vehicle storage. The settlement came through in August. Gabrielle paid $28,000 in impound fees plus $12,000 in property restoration costs. The court issued a permanent injunction preventing future commercial operations on Wade's land, with violations subject to immediate criminal prosecution. But the real victory wasn't financial. The HOA board held emergency elections after Gabrielle's resignation, installing new leadership that actually read property documents before approving improvements. The Architectural Review Committee expanded to include 3 members, preventing future single-person autocracy. Wade used the settlement money to restore his memorial garden, hiring a landscape designer who specialized in desert drought-resistant plants. Sarah's roses returned in autumn, joined by new varieties chosen for their symbolic meaning: resilience, renewal, and remembrance. Sophia's school project earned statewide recognition for its documentation of property rights and community governance. Her teacher submitted the work to a national civics competition, where it won second place and a scholarship for legal studies. Wade couldn't have been prouder watching his daughter explain constitutional property protections to a panel of judges. The community healing took longer than landscape restoration. Trust required time to rebuild. Relationships needed careful tending like irrigation systems after winter freeze damage. But gradually, neighbors began stopping by to ask Wade's advice on property issues, recognizing his expertise in areas beyond sprinkler repair. Mrs. Cecilia apologized personally, admitting she'd been swept up in Gabrielle's narrative without checking facts. Mr. Rodriguez helped Wade install new sprinkler zones, learning irrigation principles while rebuilding neighborly connections. The annual barbecue became a celebration of community cooperation rather than conflict. Wade donated gate access for emergency vehicle demonstrations, showing how property rights and public safety could coexist with proper planning and mutual respect. In September, Wade established the Sagebrush Youth Apprenticeship Program, teaching irrigation installation to teenagers who wanted practical skills alongside academic preparation. The program combined technical training with lessons about property law, community responsibility, and standing up to institutional bullying. Water always finds a way, Wade told his first class of apprentices, demonstrating pressure calculations at the community training garden. But sometimes you have to build the right channels first. The program grew beyond Wade's expectations, attracting students from across Phoenix who wanted hands-on education in sustainable water management. Local contractors hired graduates, creating career pathways that honored both practical skills and environmental responsibility. Wade's phone rang one November evening with a call from Nevada, another property owner facing HOA overreach, another community where bureaucratic bullying disguised itself as improvement. The caller had seen news coverage of Wade's victory and wanted guidance for his own property battle. "The key is documentation," Wade explained, settling into his kitchen chair with Sarah's photograph visible on the windowsill. "Know your legal rights, document every violation, and don't let them convince you that standing up for yourself makes you the problem." The calls kept coming. Wade became an unofficial consultant for property rights disputes, helping homeowners understand easement laws, irrigation codes, and the difference between legitimate authority and bureaucratic intimidation. Sarah would have loved seeing him help others navigate system failures, using his technical expertise to protect families from institutional abuse. Property rights weren't just legal concepts. They represented security, stability, and the basic human need for space that couldn't be invaded by people with clipboards and fake smiles.
Thanks for hanging out with us on HOA Stories, where the HOA Karens meet their match. If this story had you cheering or cringing, go ahead and like the video, drop a comment with your reaction, and hit subscribe so you're ready for the next wild HOA tale.